the goal is new customers and we're trying to scale. And you have an L1 campaign set up in the account. And let's
Mhm.
say that, hey, we're hitting a wall. We don't have server-side tracking. Let's do an L0 campaign. Let's see. We want to break past that, reduce CPCs, get more new customers because we're hitting a wall. So what you're saying then on the main KPIs to look at, let's say, and let's just, like I said, keep it simple. There's only 2 campaigns. You're selling 1 product. For the L1 campaign, you're looking at just overall purchases and like amount spent. And then on the L0 campaign, are you just looking at like view content, click through rate, and then like just engagement across the board?
That's
Or is it
exactly
like
right.
different? Okay,
No,
got it.
it's just like that because each campaign, because of Meta's deduping and because of Meta's Advantage Plus audiences, it places where they want people to go. They can't get out of that, and it's locked into the portion of that journey. So it's kind of like we know that they do transfer. We've proven that with feeder strategy, wicked reports, looking at the person to click, yada yada yada. So we know it works. But now what I would have to say is, okay, now what? So if you sort descending by results, it's
This is L0, by the way.
yeah,
For everyone.
this is a traffic campaign. This is a conversion campaign that is operating as a traffic campaign. So what I have to look at is I do have different ad sets here, and you can get a little granular. Sometimes it doesn't really make a difference because they're lookalikes. So, for example, the people in my Klaviyo are also the people who purchase. So it makes sense that they're both about equal, about equal, about equal, about equal, but one has a much higher volume. Okay. This is not bad because it's down. This is not bad because it's up. Together, they get, within 3 cents of a result. Fine. So that's where we look at here as an example is our CPMs ascending a little bit, 11, and kind of goes to like 15 and 12, and then up to 22. Is CPC increasing a little bit, 35, 34. Then you hop up to 40s and sometimes in the 50s before we go down. Is CTR increasing, decreasing? No, actually, I have CTR lower, but this is higher volume. So that's okay. You have to take weighted averages. Do not necessarily take a look at something and say, wow, this is 4%. I'm going to kill these 1,200 people and I'm going to bank on those 50. You're going to have amazing metrics while your client can't afford to pay anything. So we have to take this weighted average, means whatever has the highest amount of volume is what is most important. Hardest to move, most important, also hardest to get to that point. So if you spend a year making a gold bar and you're like, whoa, and then you spend another year making another gold bar, you don't be like, this one's prettier, whoop, and then throw out half your gold bars. You don't do that. You try to figure out how to continually improve on the process. That's kind of what we're doing here. We don't want to throw the baby out the bathwater. We want to get the bathwater because we bought the baby. So we already have this information here that says, okay, these ads here, you're kind of seeing some similarities. All I did was descend by results. And what happened? This ad works for anybody. This ad also works for anybody. This ad worked pretty good for those people. So this is my, that doesn't make sense. These 2 ads work for these as well. So you're kind of seeing when they're grouped together, this means, hey, regardless of who I found, the results are fairly similar and it's similar to both. The fact that these are grouping together when I descend by results is indicative of 2 things. 1, Meta understands ad copy. That's why they know how to group them. And 2, when they understand ad copy and it works, it pushes the most amount of money there. So what this basically gives me is, because we always have kind of 2 of every ad, at least 3 of every ad. If I see one outlier, I don't pay too much attention to it unless the results are fan-fucking-tastic. And it's not. It's 51, which is worse than the average of these. This one is 31, which is, I already have one that's higher and one that's, 5 times higher and only 5 cents. So it's not like breakouts. They're not growing exponentially in spite of. They're just kind of being slipped in there with singular 1 out of 3 audiences worked well with that ad, but 2 of the other ones didn't even make the cut. Okay, good. 2 out of 3 did not work. So now that I know what we have, shirt, pants, shirt, but this ad copy, what actually this tells me is this is my number 1, this is my number 2, then this is my number 3 and 4, and then irrelevant. Why? Well, when you have different variations of ads and are going to different variations of targeted ad copy, which we're targeted audiences, which we already know, Advantage Plus basically says, yeah, thank you for that suggestion. I'm going to do what I want anyway. Good. The thank you for that suggestion, I'm going to do what I want anyway, means that when you do that again, where I say, now you're going to go into a conversion campaign, it says, yeah, thank you for your conversion campaign settings. I'm going to do what I want anyway. Well, what did you do last time? I chose that one. Yes, I want you to do that again.
Yeah.
Our creative testing or our ad creatives that we're looking at is comparative to each other, weighted by volume, looking for a pattern recognition of, you gave me 3 different versions of these ads and they're all second best. Fuck yes, that's good. So as we start to see similarities, this is now how I'm ranking them. Weighted average is number 1, multiplication kind of number 2, unless one's a breakout. And then everything else that's singular just happened to do really good is not something I could bank on, because as I make 3 of those ads again and Meta does whatever it wants again, what are the odds that that one's going to turn into 3 amazing? Probably a lot worse than will 2 and 3 keep at least 2 or 3. One, we bank on not getting worse. The other one, we got to bank on getting 300% better. Don't do that. So that's where we have to look at kind of what is actually performing inside of these. You can do that with each of the scenarios. When you do that with your view content, you could do that with your kind of middle and funnel engagement, which is no exclusion, maybe auto targeting, maybe new versus returning customers. You're starting to see the similarities. Meta is going to do what it wants. So please do not for a moment think that, aha, but if I remove these people, it may go there. No. You're not going to outsmart Meta. You're not going to outsmart Google. I had a conversation this morning. This morning, Jesus. Yeah, this morning for an hour with a company called Waste Not. Waste Not is a very extremely effective company that is trying to force Meta and Google into going into or stopping it from seeing specific type of audiences. The reason why my client put me in contact with him, he goes, I've added about 650 negatives to about 400 accounts this last 2 months. Nothing works. I'm like, welcome to my life. So Waste Not is actually reaching out to me. He goes, can we get you on our advisory board? We need that experience to help increase their effectiveness of their platform. And Waste Not is a fantastic company running into the same roadblocks. So it's not me, it's not you, it's companies with hundreds of clients all experiencing the same thing. So we have to adapt. The way that I've been able to adapt is don't try to force Meta into an area it does not want to go. It just stops working. Leverage what we're expecting Meta to do. I expect that if I add these 2 groups of ads, Jesus, it's getting messy. If I add these 2 groups of ads to any other campaign, they will perform well. That's my assumption. Test that, make it work well. We've done that
because of volume and because of results.
Yeah. Meta's like, remember that ad copy I told you, Caden, that I liked? You're going to use it again. And remember what happens when you create a new campaign? What does it do?
Reset.
It does what with warm traffic?
Sends the warm traffic straight to the new creative, and it looks great. And then people think it's creative fatigue.
Wait a minute. So you mean the ads that we have warm traffic to when you clone campaigns focusing on conversions, we're going to take those same people and send it over to the conversion campaign?
Yeah.
Exactly what I want. So when we're looking at this scenario here, where we have our creative testing, and then we have our main campaign here, my main campaign is getting $201 cost per new purchase. My creative testing and my other creative testing here, we're testing 2 different variations, basically like an L0, which is Advantage plus shopping, and then
or it could be manual, either or.
Yeah, so it's basically like 2 different creative. This one's a creative testing. This one's just the non-creative testing, but for the same immunity. So these 2.
Question real quick, because I think this is it's confusing me, but I'll
get there. That's what I was going to explain. They're the same exact campaign. One is running with the ads that have been working. This is the ads that we're testing to see if they can go into the campaign that is working.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're creative testing with L0 and shifting that into L1 essentially. I mean, the same campaign you said, but
the L's in this point don't mean anything. It's just a way for us to say like 2 different campaigns with the same date, the same event, for the same product. We're like, yeah, we just basically called it that. But I know it doesn't make any sort of sense. Now,
but wouldn't they just? You're saying though they would just overlap though. That's what I don't understand. It's like, wouldn't they just?
They won't overlap.
What?
Ad sets dedupe.
Ad sets dedupe.
People found in here cannot be found in here. People found in here cannot be found in here.
Oh, you're on the ad set level. Okay, got it.
Well, ad set level has to be campaign level too. So
Okay,
remember what the meta
Okay.
what the meta disruptors said is that the campaigns will prioritize audience by deduping them by ad set.
Okay, got
So
it.
what this means is that if I'm in this ad set, Caden, if you're seeing these ads, I can now no longer target you in this campaign. It's been deduplicated. Caden is duplicated, overlapped in both campaigns. What is Meta going to choose? One or the other.
Whatever campaign that you're converted in. Yeah.
Now
It's just going to pull you to one. Okay, got it.
It's going to keep you inside of one. If you're found in one, you can only be found in a new one when you create something new. It pulls out of those people and pushes it new, and that's when you have to shut off the campaign.
Got it.
But if you're running both of them at the same time, you cannot necessarily say, yes, you're going to get a first click here, a second click there. If what we're meta saying is true, which has actually been holding up, everything the disruptors has told Kevin and I have been rock solid. It's been true. We took 16 accounts, consolidated down to one. Things got better. We're like, okay, fine. But when we're looking at the creative testing, now that it can't dedupe, now that it can't be duplicated, I now have Caden is in this campaign or this campaign, but cannot jump.
Got it. Okay, so that's why having different actions is the way that you segment out versus like different audience. Okay, completely caught up now. That makes sense.
And so
wow, that's crazy.
Right. With the and the other thing that happens though is when people are like, we're going to take the people that saw this ad, but then didn't see that ad, and then bought this, and then farted on Thursday, but didn't walk their dog on Friday, and you're like, no, pick one.
Yeah, it's all within. So that's, and this goes into the whole. Okay, so this makes a lot more sense as to why we've seen it work with campaigns that have segmented creative and then pushing a certain product in that creative. And it doesn't, I mean, it can, someone could jump from this and then jump to the other and then stay in the other, but yeah,
they
that
rarely
makes total
cross over
sense.
now. And we're when looking through Wicked, it kind of gets disgusting because it's like they have 14 clicks in the same campaign. Like they're locked in now. They only re-engage in that same campaign. So what that means to us is we said, okay, because of that, why couldn't I take 12 grand to a bunch of Bobs and spend the $1,200 to a bunch of Jans? I'm just indicating that those two are not in the same campaigns. But what that means is that if I get a creative testing event that now has $76 per purchase, and this one is still on, meaning that they are being deduplicated or they're assigned to specific campaigns, this, when moved into this, the ads moved into my creative testing into the PI event should start to look better. It's going to take me too long to identify where the hell we just did it last time. So I'll just show you the end result. My apologies. I don't manage this one. We discuss, and then the person within that week does all the changes. I don't really know exactly when. But you guys remember Paul? We spent $500,000 on Paul. Paul finally died. Not actually Paul, but the ad. But this poor man here has had a $500,000 spend and finally fatigued.
Creative fatigue. But I thought creative fatigue wasn't a thing, John.
It's not. And what sucks is it's not. You know what did?
Audience fatigue.
No, you know what did actually happen the last 30 days?
No.
Remember why I said creative fatigue or audience fatigue is no longer happening? What we discovered? We discovered feeder strategy. We don't run a feeder strategy right now.
Gotcha. So it's just the audience got eaten up. It wasn't the creative, it's the audience. Paul needs a new home is what it comes down to.
Paul needs new friends. Yeah. Everyone got annoyed with him. That's basically what happened. So we stopped actually running our view content campaigns. And I have an opinion that we need to run feeder strategy. My partner says, I disagree. We should do creative testing. I said, which one do you want to do first? He goes, creative testing. We said, okay. So Paul died off.
I mean, it proves concept either or.
So we move systemically so that we can have definitive results. If we make 6 changes and something good happens, you got to go find out. Yeah. So we're said, okay, we're not going to run feeder strategy. We'll do creative testing. That is actually working extremely well. So far, partner's right. Not saying that feeder strategy is wrong. That is going to be used to scale the new good ads. Very simplistic. So we have new ads. It's working well. In this ad here, when we hit creative fatigue, what we did is ran a space round of creative testing for this campaign here. and I forget exactly which one it was. It might have been 316 or 39. I don't remember, but it was one of those. But what we essentially did is took the best performing ones and said, okay, now let's test those. Let's see how that's actually happening. And I think it's like the 12th, if I remember correctly, when everything changed over. And I should be able to compare it to the previous period.
I'm still mind blown that it's just lanes. It's so different than Google. It's so different.